In this video, I'm gonna go over 15 secrets that credit card companies don't want you to know. Most credit cards have variable rates that can change at any time. In recent years, with inflation and interest rates rising, I have been receiving way more letters in the mail about the changes to my APR, and I imagine you have been too. Whenever you get approved for a card, you typically get a letter in the mail along with your card that describes your interest rate and other details. However, this letter usually gets tossed in the trash right after you take the card out. All of these details are written in boring font, hoping that you don't pay attention to what's really going on. Now, moving on to our next secret is that interest rates and your payment due dates can be changed. A lot of people don't know that you can call up the customer service hotline and ask them to lower your interest rate or move your payment due dates. Of course, this is up to the discretion of the credit card company, and it will most likely depend on your history with them, but it never hurts to ask. I've done this through multiple credit cards, and sometimes you can even do this through a secure message rather than calling customer service. The next thing to keep in mind is that credit card points are not worth what they used to be. Devaluations happen all the time. What I mean by devaluations is that your points are worth more today than they will be in the future. This is very similar to inflation. For example, $10 5 years ago is worth way more than it is today. This is how you should treat your points. A hotel stay used to cost 8,000 points last year. Now it costs 15,000 points. Meanwhile, your earnings rate and bonuses that you get on credit cards have remained relatively the same. As rates go up and your earning potential remains the same, these points become less and less valuable. So as you earn your points, just make sure that you use them and spend them however you wish, because these are one of those things that don't get better with time. Credit card companies know that about 20% of their customers don't use their credit card points. They use this info to analyze their profitability as a company. Those unused rewards and points are just savings for the company. So before you cancel any credit card, just make sure that you use them as a statement credit or transfer them out so you can use them later. Not everybody is into the credit card points and miles game, trying to squeeze every last penny from the rewards, and the credit card companies know this. So my advice, similar to the previous points, is try to use your points. If not, this is just money lost to the company. Foreign transaction fees are one of those hidden fees that you don't realize until it's too late. It may be difficult to find a credit card without an annual fee or a low-cost option that waives foreign transaction fees. Usually, foreign transaction fees apply to credit cards that are geared towards travel or for people in the military. In addition, if you are shopping online and a retailer is outside the US, you also can be charged a foreign transaction fee even though you made the purchase inside the US. Typically, foreign transaction fees are around 3% of the total cost, but these can add up over time depending on how much you spend. Imagine going on holiday for 2 weeks in Europe and you spend $3,000. 3% of $3,000 is roughly $90 that just vanishes. Whereas you could have used that for a nice dinner or even a few breakfasts elsewhere. Now here are some no annual fee credit cards that offer zero foreign transaction fees. The Bilt MasterCard, Capital One, Savior One Cash Rewards, Bank of America Travel Rewards, Discover It Cashback Card, and the Wells Fargo Autograph Card. Also, if you can get into Navy Federal, all of the cards have no foreign transaction fees. If you are serious about fixing, building, or leveraging your credit, you need to join the Credit Collective, our free school community. Learn the exact framework that I use to boost clients' credit scores above 740 and secure over $100,000 in business funding. So by joining, you get access to my credit repair masterclass, business funding masterclass, intro to disputing hard inquiries, and monthly live Q&A calls with me. Plus, you will get bonuses like my 800 plus credit score blueprint, hard inquiry letter template, basic dispute letter template, and update personal information letter template. Join now by clicking the link down in the description or up here for free today and start transforming your credit. Another secret that credit card companies don't want you to know is that you may get your late payments waived or reimbursed. By late payments, I mean that you didn't pay the minimum balance by the due date. When this happens, your balance will be overdue and you typically get charged a late payment fee, usually ranging from $8 to $35. Often, you realize that you have a late payment when you see this fee added to your account. Rather than just letting it go, even if it was an honest mistake, it would always behoove you to call up customer service or message them through the chat to ask if there was a possibility to get the late payment waived. Keep in mind that this will be up to the issuer and also depend on your relationship with them. If this is your first offense, you have a pretty good chance of getting it waived or reimbursed. But if this has happened multiple times in the past, the likelihood of getting it waived might be slim. So before you accept the late payment fee and paying it off, it doesn't hurt to ask if the waiver is available. Credit card companies are hoping that you don't read the fine print and don't understand how their 0% introductory APR offers work. Some credit cards, typically store retail cards, may offer 0% APR that defers the interest. This means that whenever you make your initial purchase, it pushes back the interest that you would have to pay until the promotional offer is over. For instance, let's just say that you make a $1,000 purchase at Lowe's and you have a 0% APR for 6 months. If you don't pay off that $1,000 in full before the 6 months is up, starting month 7, you're gonna be paying interest by the time that you made that purchase. This can add up to 7 months of additional interest. With the major credit card issuers, promotional offers usually apply to purchases or balance transfers, sometimes both. So just make sure that which one offers a 0% APR for. Otherwise, you may be hit with a lot of interest without even knowing it. In addition to these offers, even though there is 0% interest APR for a certain amount of time, you still have to make minimum payments. You cannot just leave the balance on these cards hoping that you won't have to do anything until last minute. If you fail to make minimum payments during this promotional APR, credit card companies can prematurely end the 0% APR and start charging you a penalty APR, which usually is the highest APR that they charge, upwards of 30%. Even though credit card APRs vary, if you fail to make minimum payments, this APR can remain indefinitely. Credit card companies also hope that you don't understand how intro APRs affect your credit. It is nice to have a credit card where you won't be charged interest for up to a year as long as you make minimum payments. However, a lot of people don't realize that when you increase the amount of debt that you have on these cards, it will still negatively impact your credit. The amounts owed portion of your FICO score makes up 30% of your score. This is the second biggest factor, and credit card debt heavily influences this section. Credit card debt is considered to be one of the highest types of debt since the balance is consistently changing, unlike a loan. So keep in mind that having high balances on these types of cards will reduce your credit score, making it more difficult for you to get approved for other lines of credit. As a user of any credit card company, your credit card can get closed at any time. One of the most common reasons why credit cards get closed is due to inactivity. Speaking as someone who has over 40 credit cards, if you don't swipe your card at least once or even twice a year, there's a high probability that the issuer will close your card. When this happens, this can negatively affect your credit, especially if you have credit card debt on other cards. Closing your credit card will lower your overall available credit, thus increasing your credit utilization. Also, if it is an old card, it can affect your average age of accounts. The longer your accounts are open, the more positively it affects your credit. Another reason why credit card issuers may close your account is due to having derogatory information on other accounts. For instance, let's just say that you have 3 credit cards. If one of your credit card ends up being late and eventually gets charged off and sent to collections, this information alone can lead to your other accounts being closed. Whenever credit card issuers does periodic reviews on your credit, which they typically do on a monthly or quarterly basis, they can go ahead and close your account even if your account that you have with them is positive and you have been paying on time. By having negative information reported to the credit bureaus based on other accounts, credit card issuers predict that this may happen to them. Rather than waiting until it actually happens, they prefer to prevent it by closing your account. The majority of credit card companies out there will usually never ask for any documentation to prove of what you state on your application is accurate. There may be some rare instances that they do, but these instances are very, very rare. The only time this has happened to me personally is when I apply for business credit cards through Barclays. Every other time I apply for a credit card, no other documentation such as pay stubs, tax returns, or even proof of address was required. Credit card issuers don't know for sure whether the information that you state on your credit card applications is accurate. For instance, stated income is often exaggerated and not mentioned exactly to the dollar. However, based on your credit report and the stated income that you put on your application, this may influence their decision. For example, if you claim to make $250,000 a year, but took out a small auto loan of $14,000 over a 7-year term, this may raise some red flags, as it doesn't make sense for someone who makes that much money to take out a small loan for that long. Only when there's information that doesn't seem cohesive with the application and your credit report, this is when they may require more information from you or just give you an automatic denial. Credit card companies don't want you to know that credit limit increases don't always happen automatically. There has been fewer times than I can count on one hand when a credit card company has raised my credit limit automatically. This may be due to the fact that I have many credit cards and I'm not able to put as much spend on them as I want, so there's really no reason for the credit card issuer to increase my limits further. But the best way to get a credit limit increase is simply by doing a few certain steps. The first step is to make sure that your personal information is updated. A lot of times, people don't update their income on their profile. This usually only takes place when they apply for the card. Updating your income can help you get automatic limit increases because your income is the biggest determinant factor in your credit limit, because the issuer wants to make sure that you have the necessary income to pay for any potential debt that you may have. Depending on the credit card company, you can typically ask for a credit limit increase every 3 to 6 months, and this may result in just a soft inquiry. So here are some companies that will give you soft pulls whenever you request for a credit limit increase. This includes Chase, American Express, and Navy Federal. Just make sure to check the rules that they typically have, because you may get denied if you request too early or if you have a high balance on other credit cards. You might be surprised if you think that you have a card that has no preset limit. You do have a limit. You commonly see this more with American Express cards. Every card that you have will have a certain ceiling of how much you can actually put on that card. So here are a few factors that determines how much you can actually spend on a card, which is your credit history, your income, prior balances, previous statements, previous transactions, and how long you had that account open. So if you are a person who has one of these cards but probably puts 1 or 2 transactions on it a month and they're small amounts like anywhere between $50 to $100, the likelihood of you getting a limit to spend up to $50,000 may be slim. Credit card companies don't want you to know how they report to the credit bureaus. The key date to remember is the statement closing date. I know that they show this on every credit card statement, but it's usually very small and not the main focus. The main focus is usually the minimum balance due and the payment due date. This is totally different from the statement closing date. The statement closing date is a day when the information gets passed along to the credit bureaus. For instance, let's just say that your statement due date is on July 6th. Any balance left on this day will get reported to the credit bureaus. This is how the credit bureaus calculate your credit utilization. If you consistently have high credit utilization, say over 30%, this inhibits your credit score from actually being higher. Just paying the minimum balance or whatever amount that you have due will avoid interest, but technically it won't help your credit. What will help your credit is by keeping your balances low prior to the statement due date. You can find this online or whenever you receive a statement in your mailbox. Based on many articles and studies, putting expenses on your credit card is more likely to cause you to spend more money. Whenever you swipe a piece of plastic, it is really hard to justify how much you are actually spending. For instance, when you're checking out and the cashier says your bill is $100, you just swipe it. So with the grace period and not having to pay it right away, people tend to overshoot their actual budget, and that's why it's such a problem in America. It's way more painful to pay with cash because you see the physical paper taken away from you right away. Plus, you have the option not to pay it right away. Some people may not know this, but you can actually reallocate your credit limits among other credit cards. This only works if it's under the same company. For instance, if you are trying to move a credit limit from one Chase credit card to another, this would be applicable. Now, you should know that each credit card may have a minimum limit that you must maintain, so you cannot move all of your limits, but it never hurts to ask to see if you can. This becomes extremely beneficial when you have a credit card that has a 0% APR, since you can reallocate credit limits from other cards that you may not be using into this card, thus increasing your available credit limit with 0 APR. Some issuers also allow you to reallocate personal credit limits to the business side. One company that allows you to do this is American Express. You can reallocate personal credit limits to your business credit card. Earlier, I mentioned how credit card companies rarely ever give you automatic credit limit increases. But there's a 5-step process where you can get massive credit limit increases easily. To check out how to do it, watch these videos over here.